This is Math Message 2-9. This is a main lesson we did in class. If you were absent, use it to catch up. If you were struggling, use it to review. As always, have paper, pencil, or whiteboard ready, and always a workbook. So pause the video, get everything together. All right, in this lesson, we're going to work on modeling multiplication and division number stories. A lot of times you hear us say to write a number model. Okay, and a number model, I've talked several times about how a number model looks exactly like the problem. We talked about a model airplane or a model car looks exactly like a real car or a real airplane. And so when we're doing number models, we're doing a number sentence, but it looks exactly like the problem. So we're really going to work on, again, some multiplication and division word problems, but we're really going to work on modeling those problems. All right, so I want you to go ahead and on your paper, I want you to draw a picture of what's going on here. Remember, just a simple math picture, nothing fancy. It says that 4 friends equally share 6 granola bars. How many granola bars will each friend get? So use sketches to show your thinking. I want you to go ahead and pause the video and I want you to draw a picture of what you see in your head. Okay, a lot of times when I have boys and girls model this problem, now your picture may look completely different from mine, but this is a picture that I get often from boys and girls when they are modeling this problem. So they're showing their 4 friends. So we have just our 4 stick figures up here, just real simple stick figures. And if you go ahead and label them friend 1, friend 2, friend 3, and friend 4 like I did, then when you're going to share these granola bars, I drew these granola bars down here at the bottom, then you can kind of just assign each friend a granola bar. So friend 1 gets this one, friend 2 gets this one, friend 3 gets this one, friend 4 gets this one, and then what happens here with those leftover granola bars? Well, when it comes to granola bars, when I have something left over, could you split up those granola bars? Right? So we could take one of the granola bars and split it in half, and friend 1 gets 1 piece and friend 2 gets 1 piece. And we could take the other granola bar, split it in half, friend 3 gets 1 piece and friend 4 gets 1 piece. So to answer the question, how many granola bars will each friend get? Well, each friend's going to get 1 whole granola bar and 1/2 of a granola bar. And you could write out the word 1/2 if you wanted to. We haven't worked with fractions yet, or really how to write them the proper way and things like that. But if you know and understand fractions a little bit, you can go ahead and write it like a fraction. If not, you could write it as a word. Okay? Oh, let's see here. All right, yep, next problem. Okay, so now I want you to think about this problem. This time we still have 4 friends. They're still equally sharing, but this time I want them to equally share 6 pennies. Okay, go ahead and I want you to draw a picture of that, and then we're going to come back and talk about how this is different from sharing granola bars, and I want to see what your answer is. So go ahead and pause the video, sketch out what this would look like. Okay, so hopefully you sketched out. If you don't have this sketched out, do that first. But here's a picture, and again, your picture might look a little bit different from mine, but I just have taught this lesson enough times to know that a lot of boys and girls, this is the picture I kind of see. This time I even went ahead and labeled friends and pennies down here. It never hurts to label your quick little sketches that you're doing so that you know exactly what you're talking about, or even a teacher or someone looking at your paper knows what you're talking about. So up top I have my 4 friends again, and again I went ahead and labeled them because then I put my pennies down below, and then I can just assign those pennies. So friend 1 gets this penny, friend 2 gets this penny, friend 3 gets this penny, and friend 4 gets this penny. Now, how is this problem different from the granola bar problem? Because we had 6 granola bars, but what were we able to do with those 2 extra granola bars? Okay, we were able to split those up, right? Well, are you able to really split up pennies? And you're not really able to split up pennies, are you? And even if you were able to take a saw and cut them in half, to give them to a friend, it's not going to have any value. So this problem is different because this time we're actually going to have leftovers. And in math, when we do division, those leftovers are going to be called remainders. Okay, so I want you to look at the two different problems. I'm going to go back to this granola bar problem. If I were writing a number model for this, my number model would be, okay, 4 friends. Whoops, I'm sorry, nope, nope, nope. You always, when you write your division, I know that I'm equally sharing, okay? So if I'm equally sharing, that's a clue word that I'm dividing. So now I always start with what I'm dividing. What am I dividing up? I'm dividing up granola bars, right? So I have 6 granola bars. So that's what I'm going to start with, 6. And I'm going to divide them. How am I dividing them? I'm dividing them up with my 4 friends. So I'm going to say divided by 4 equals, now in this problem, what was my answer? My answer was 1 1/2. And again, you don't have to write it exactly like I just wrote it. You could write it like this, or you could write it 1 and the words 1/2. But that's the answer to this one. And as you get older, you're going to even learn that you could write that as 1.5. But we don't get into decimals in 3rd grade. But in this problem, your answer is 1 1/2 because we could take those leftover granola bars and we could still split them up. Now in this problem here, when we write our division word problem, and again, I know it's division because when I see the words equally share, I know that's a division. You always start with the number of that you're dividing up. What am I dividing up in this problem? I'm dividing up pennies. So I start with the 6 divided between my 4 friends. This time my answer is 1 with a remainder of 2. And we're going to learn how to write division number models with those remainders, okay? That R stands for the word remainder. All right, so let's look at this next problem. I want you to go ahead and draw a picture of what this problem is about. It says there are 3 children and they share 13 pennies. How many pennies will each child get? Again, because we are sharing, we know that this is going to be a division problem. So I want you to go ahead, I want you to draw a picture. I want you to find the answer, and I want you to see if you can write a number model. Pause the video. All right, so if I take 3 children, I'm just going to go ahead and write circles for these children, and I'm going to go ahead and share the 13 pennies. Now I'm not going to draw out these 13 pennies anymore because, guys, I'm going to tell you there's some times where we're going to have some pretty big numbers of things that we are sharing. So I'm not going to bother drawing all of that out. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of divide up those pennies inside of my 3 circles for my 3 friends. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm going to put that 13th penny out here because it's not really fair when we're dividing something up equally. It's not really fair that one person gets more, right? So when we're talking division, we're always talking about equally sharing. So then my answer, how many pennies will each child get? My answer is going to be 4, right? Each child can get 4 pennies. Now I also have 1 penny left over. This is going to be my remainder, and I can even kind of label that, all right? So here's my number model. Remember when you're writing division, what are we dividing up? We're dividing up pennies. That's the number we always start with. So I've got 13 pennies. How am I dividing them? I'm dividing them between 3 kids. How many pennies will each child get? 4. And then I never forget my remainder of 1. All right, so let's look at this number model on my next screen here. Whoops, I went the wrong way. All right, so now here's all the parts and pieces of that number model. This first number here is actually called the dividend, and this number that we're dividing it by is called the divisor. Now, I'm not really going to expect you to remember those all the time, to be honest with you, but I do expect you to understand the names of these parts. My answer is called my quotient. The answer to a division problem is called the quotient. Remember, the answer to an addition problem is called the sum. Let's have a little review here. The answer to a subtraction problem is called the difference. The answer to a multiplication problem is called the product. And the answer to a division problem is called the quotient. And I really need you to know these words because there's going to be some times where you might take a test and it might say, find the quotient, or find the product, or find the difference, or find the sum. And you got to know what operation you are working on. So the answer to a division problem is called the quotient. And then if we have anything left over, that's called the remainder. And we're going to label that with an R. And it's written just like that. All right, here's another problem. Quick sketch. I want you to do 21 candles are arranged with 3 in each row. How many rows are there? So 21 candles, you're arranging them with 3 in each row. I want to know how many rows are there. And then how many candles are left over. Go ahead and pause your video. All right, so when I'm drawing this picture out, I'm taking these 21 candles and I'm putting them 3 in each row. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw that. 1, 2, 3. Then I make another row. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So now I'm just drawing exactly what it says. Put 3 in a row. It wants to know how many rows are there. Well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Did you write out a number model for this problem? If not, let's go ahead and do that together. So what are we dividing up in this problem? We're dividing up candles, right? So that's the number I'm starting with. 21, how am I dividing up those candles? Well, I was dividing them up into rows of 3. And when I did that, how many rows will I have? And that makes 7. Did I have a remainder in this problem? I didn't have a remainder. So I don't have to write a remainder at all. You can put R0, but if I don't have a remainder, I just leave that part blank. All right, so let's see here. How many more problems do I got here? A couple more problems. Each player is dealt 4 cards. There are 18 cards in all. So how many players are there? Let's read this again. Each player is dealt 4 cards. So I'm just going to draw what I know. Each player is dealt 4 cards. So I'm just going to do this, 4 cards. Now, I might want to say that that's 4 cards. That's going to help me out here in a second. It says there are 18 cards in all. So if there's 4 cards here, then I'm going to have to do another 4 cards. And remember, everybody's dealt the same amount. So 4 cards there, I'll just put 4C. And I'm going to keep doing this until I run out of cards. Another 4 cards. How many cards do I have now? So 4, 8, 12. I like to put a little number down there so I can keep track. Another 4. What is that? 16. And then when I deal out another, can I make another group of 4? I can't make another group of 4 because another group of 4 would equal 20, and I don't have 20 cards. So I only have 18 cards. So now there's going to be a leftover. I always like to make it, if I was drawing squares before, I like to draw circles. There's just going to be a leftover of 2 cards. All right, so now when I draw my division number model, what was I dividing up? I was dividing up cards, right? So I'm doing 18 cards. How was I dividing them up? This time I was dividing them up into groups of 4. Now, how many equal groups of 4 could I make? I was able to make 4 equal groups. This group doesn't really count because it wasn't an equal group. But how am I going to show that in my answer? With a remainder of 2. All right, this one, there are 18 markers shared equally among 6 children. How many markers does each child get? So let's look at what I know. I know there's 18 markers. Okay, so I'm just going to say 18M for 18 markers. They're shared equally among 6 children. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to share them out with 6 kids. So I'm going to kind of draw that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, how many markers does each child get? Well, I'm going to start divvying up those markers. So I'm going to do it kind of 1 at a time. Or you know what? I could even do it 2 at a time if I wanted to. I'm good at counting by 2. So I'm going to do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So I know I got rid of 12. Now I think if I keep counting by 2s, that's going to be too much. So let me keep counting by 2s. I'm just going to touch it. I'm not going to write it yet. So 12, 14, 16, 18. Well, I can't keep counting by 2s because then I couldn't give it to everybody. So let me go ahead and just start giving them 1 at a time. So now I'm at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. All right, so now I gave away my 18 markers. All right, see how I can divvy them up more than 1 at a time if I want to? All right, so now let's write my division number model. What was I dividing up? I was dividing up markers. How many? 18. Okay, when I divide those 18 markers, how was I dividing them? I was dividing them up between 6 children. How many markers did each kid get? Each kid got 3. Did I have any leftover markers? I didn't have any left over because when I gave everybody 3, that equaled 18. I can go back and even double check myself. I know I've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So each child got 3 markers. All right, one more and then I'm going to send you off to your workbook. There are 15 yards of cloth. Let's see, 15 yards of cloth are cut into smaller pieces for dresses. Okay, so I'm kind of visualizing that, kind of visualizing this stretch of cloth here, and it's cut into smaller pieces for dresses. Now it says each dress needs 2 yards. So how many dresses can be made? All right, I want you to go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to try to draw this out. Okay, imagine that there's 15 yards of cloth, and you're dividing it up, and each dress needs 2 yards. So how many dresses can you make from this strip of cloth? Stop the video, draw a picture. All right, so I redrew my cloth down here a little bit bigger, and I know it's 15 yards. So I'm going to start cutting it off for each dress. So I know that this dress, it takes 2 yards, okay? And so I'm down to 15 minus 2, I'm down to 13, right? So I'm just going to say I'm down to 13. And then I'm going to take another 2 yards off, and now I'm down to 11. And now I'm going to take another 2 yards down, and now I'm down to 9. And I'm going to cut another 2 yards off, and now I am down to 7. I might need to make this a little bit longer to help me out here, and that's okay. And then I need another 2 yards, and that's going to take me down to 5. All right, I'm going to keep drawing my cloth out a little bit longer, make that 15 yards a little bit longer for me. All right, then I'm going to take another 2 yards, and that has me down to 3 yards left. And then I'm going to take another 2 yards, and that's going to leave me down to 1 yard left. Okay, so this down here, what is left is only 1 yard. Can I make a dress out of it? I can't make a dress out of it, can I? because it takes 2 yards to make the dress. So now this problem here, I have 15 yards of cloth. I was dividing it into sections of 2 yards. How many 2-yard sections was I able to make? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that equals 7. But then, don't forget, I've got that remainder right there. I have a remainder of 1 yard of cloth. All right, let's go ahead. I want you to stop the video, and I want you to go ahead and do workbook page 52. All right, workbook page 52. It's the 2-9 lesson. And then start the video back up, and I am going to quickly go over each of the problems to show you what your answers should have been. All right, you should have these problems done. If you don't, seriously pause this video. I don't want you to just watch me do the problem. I want you to really try to do the problem. All right, so now a class of 30 children wants to play ball. How many teams can be made with exactly 6 children on each team? So if I just start putting 6 kids on a team, because that's what I know I have, and I got to keep doing that until I get to 30 children. So 6, and another 6 is 12, and another 6 is 18, and another 6 is 24, and another 6 is 30. So right there's my 30 children. I just kept putting them into teams of 6. Okay, so it wants to know how many teams can be made. Well, I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams. So how many children are left over? In this problem, there are 0 children left over. My number model should have been, what was I dividing up? Children. 30. How was I dividing them? I was dividing them into teams of 6. How many teams was I able to make? I was able to make 5. No remainder, so I'm not going to write it. All right, number 2. For another game, the same class of 30 children wants to have exactly 4 on each team. So how many teams can be made? All right, so for this problem, I'm going to do 30 children want to have 4 on a team. So here's a team, that's 4. Another 4 is 12. Another 4, another 4 is 8. Sorry, I was thinking ahead. Another 4 is 12. Another 4 is 16. Another 4 is 20. Another 4 is 24. Another 4 is 28. Another 4 is 32. Oops, I don't have 32 kids, do I? Nope, I don't have 32 kids, so I'm going to erase that team right there. And so then I'm going to have to say that there's 2 left over in that one. And you see how I made that one a square because it's different from the rest of them. Okay, so now how many teams can be made? Now I'm going to tell you, this is one of those problems that might need a little bit of explanation, because when we talk about division, we got to know how many teams of 4 we can make. Technically, we can make 14, let's count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can make 7 teams of 4. But in this problem, is that going to be fair to just leave kids out? So depending on the real life problem, if I have a real life situation right here, I can't just leave 2 kids out. So it says how many children are left over? 2. Okay, now that might need a little bit of explaining. I'm going to either need to create another team for those kids, or I'm going to have to go ahead and have a couple of teams with more than 4 kids. So sometimes when you're doing an answer to a word problem like this, you might need to add a little bit of extra explanation along with your answer. But the number model is 30. How was I dividing that 30 up this time? Into teams of 4. How many teams of 4 was I able to make? 7, with the remainder of 2. And this is where you can also do a little bit of explaining. All right, number 3, Roberto has 25 pencils to share equally among 3 pencil boxes. How many pencils does he put in each box? So I know there are 25 pencils. I'm sharing them equally among 3 pencil boxes. So I'm going to draw my 3 pencil boxes, and I'm going to start putting my 25 pencils in there. So I've got my, you know what, I'm going to put 5 in at a time to start. 25 pencils, that's a lot of pencils for these. So what if I do 5, 10, 15, if I do 20, 25, then I can't do that. So I can't keep going by fives. So 5, 10, 15, now I'll just do by ones. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and off out here is going to be my 25th pencil. All right, so now my answer, it wants to know how many pencils does he put in each box. He can put 8 in each box. Are there any leftover pencils? Yes, there's a leftover pencil of 1. So my number model for this one, what was I dividing up? 25 pencils. How was I dividing them? I was dividing them into 3 groups, and how many was able to go in each group? 8, with a remainder of 1. So that should have been your number model for this problem. All right, and that is it for lesson 2-9.